I think we can start now, Mark. Um, Once again, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to kick off the first of a series of condensed and impactful webinars to bring you the tools and trends that are defining the current and the future of the manufacturing space. My name is Barbara Perez, representing Burgundy Tech, and we're an engineering and automation consulting company out of California. Today, we are so lucky to get some time from Brad, who after 20 years of running a successful industrial automation business, he founded Automation Intellect to fundamentally change the way companies manage their manufacturing assets and focusing on Industry 4.0 solution. And growing around machine builders and working with integrator houses for most of my career, I believe the Automation Intellect is one of the most elegant and complete products for asset management particularly. Just to run over a few quick items and topics we're going to be discussing today. We're going to discuss the short terms and long terms of global disruptions that events like COVID-19 has had on manufacturers, why COVID-19 is accelerating digital initiatives. We're going to compare legacy manufacturing software versus Industry 4.0 software and solutions. And we're going to discuss what are some of the best practices to transitioning into digital factories or smart factories. And Brad is going to give us a few tips, of course, about what are the real secrets behind successful digital initiatives. At the end of the webinar, we're going to have a quick Q&A session. But again, we want to be respectful of everybody's time. And without further ado, Brad, the floor is yours. Can you tell us a little bit about some background about how short-term changes have happened during times of crisis?
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. Glad to be here. I'm excited to talk about what's going to be new in this space as things progress here on the other end of COVID-19. I think as we look back over time, a lot of the global events that happened really had an impact on what came after that. The Great Depression, for example, just significantly changed the way banking was done. You used to not know if you could get your money out or not. After that, there really was an organized banking system. World War II really gave rise to the industrial military complex. It was about manufacturing in the United States and being able to defend ourselves with tanks and machines and guns that we produced. 9/11 was probably one most of us actually lived through or remember. And before this, we used to be able to get on planes or go to the airport with our families or things like that. And everybody knows that since then, the last 20 years almost, the ability to get on an airplane without some substantial involvement of TSA is not happening anymore. So these were big global events that impacted the way we live our lives after. And really, coronavirus is a very similar thing. COVID has really forced us to look at how we interact with our manufacturing facility. And it really is talking about it really has forced us to talk about digital transformation and what we're going to do with that with our organization. There's some short-term effects from coronavirus. Those short-term effects are related to just global supply chain disruptions. Everybody before this whole thing happened didn't think about where our medicines came from, didn't think about where our PPE came from. But obviously, COVID brought all of that stuff to the forefront. Having global workforce disruptions has really woken us up to what it takes to keep manufacturing running globally when we have all these interconnected supply chain pieces. And then, of course, at least in the short term, how do we manage employee safety? So how do we deal with social distancing and checking temperatures and things like that? Those things probably didn't exist much prior to COVID. So when we talk about the new normal, what is the new normal going to look like? This is really coming from the top. So the government is talking about making a requirement that we reshore a lot of our manufacturing capacity, bringing those supply chains back to the United States so that in times of crisis, we have the ability to produce the things that we need. And so there's going to be pieces of this that are going to really be important, especially in life sciences. There's going to be a lot of pressure to be able to produce at higher volumes and higher quantities. There's going to be automation coming back and being added to our facilities that we're going to have to manage. And so when we look at what's coming after this, there's going to be a tremendous impact to this industry. When we look at what Industry 4.0 or the new Industry 4.0 is going to look like, it's about data as a strategic asset. So how are we using data in our facilities to be more profitable? How are we using it to be more effective at what we're doing? And it's really going to be important for us to understand how to use it, where to use it, and digitization is going to be our path to get there. So getting equipment connected and making it part of how we do our business is going to be extremely important. It will be a competitive advantage. The other big piece of this is remote work. Not exactly sure how much of that sticks around, but I know that for most people, they might have used Zoom before this whole thing happened, but might not have been able to share a screen. So I think now almost everybody is using these remote work, remote collaboration type tools, and they will be part of how we do business going forward. They're very important to your digitization effort, and you should be thinking about all of these things as you build out your strategy. So if you look at some of the big industry analysts that are out there, they're talking about how COVID is impacting the industry. And what it's really driving is an increased focus on digitalization of your assets, understanding how to reduce operating costs, monitoring employee safety and your productivity and other things related to your machines to generate more revenue. McKinsey says that this is a huge impact to revenue, 7% revenue growth over your competitors for people that have enabled or digitized their factories. So this is a really large potential advantage as you're moving forward through this initiative.
Brad, can you tell us what you envision as the factories of the future, or what are smart factories?
Yeah, so smart factories or digital factories is all about connectivity. So when people talk about Industry 4.0, what they're really talking about is how are machines and data connected to produce results and to make business decisions. So obviously digital factories are connected factories. All of the machines, equipment, and different parts of the factory that go into producing a product or a good need to be connected. We need to be able to see in a single pane of glass what the factory looks like. Understanding what our data is telling us, using data analytics to get better performance out of our lines, our production lines. Being able to react quicker, having real-time visibility to what's going on in the factory and real-time visibility into the problems that are going on and what the best way is to fix those. And last thing is really paper. So for years, we've been talking about how do we get rid of paper. But as we move to a more digital factory, it's going to be part of the requirement to get as much of the information into the system connected with the other data as possible. And so a real big push on creating ways to get rid of the paper processes that we use. We're using check boxes for marking downtime or things like that. Those are things that can now be put into the system, and that data can be coordinated with all of the other data. So let's talk a little bit about the solutions of old versus Industry 4.0. So most plants, most manufacturing facilities have ERP systems that manage finances and other business functions, HR and other things. They have MES systems that probably manage process flow, how work orders are handled through the facility, or supply chain management. They have SCADA systems that manage temperature and process and how things are made in the characteristics of the product. And then some places have APM solutions, asset performance management solutions, that allow them to understand what's going on with their equipment and how to manage downtime and things like that, production or quality. Industry 4.0 really takes all of those things and ties them together. It provides the ability for those systems to interact with each other and provide information and insights among all of those different systems to provide a better use of data within the organization. If you think about ERP, MES, or SCADA, in the past, these are very siloed pieces of software. They don't tend to talk to each other. They're very complex and costly to implement. A lot of times they take an extensive amount of time to get up and running, and it provides a tremendous amount of disruption within the organization. Industry 4.0 solutions are intended and grown from the ground up to be connected solutions. Their intention is to bring all of that data that's coming from all of the different sources together into a very easy to interpret and visualize set of information. Industry 4.0 solutions are cloud-based in most cases. So they provide the ability to deliver innovative improvements in real time to the plant and to continuously be improving and changing and providing more analytics. And Industry 4.0 solutions are also able to be scalable at a much higher rate and provide visibility to a much larger group of people than are typical with ERP, MES, and SCADA solutions of the past. So here's the bad news. The bad news is most of these projects aren't successful. 75% of projects fail, aren't considered successful. There's been hundreds of billions of dollars wasted on initiatives, digitization or digital transformation initiatives that didn't meet the goals that were laid out in the beginning. So it's really a tough lift to make these projects successful if you don't take the right approach to start with. And one of the common problems that happens in almost every situation is people underestimate the change management that's going to come with an implementation like this. These are complex connections that we're making with equipment, and we need people and processes that will support that. And those are difficult things to change because a lot of it's ingrained from years past. So when we talk about digital innovation, or we look at the right way to think about Industry 4.0, these are some things that I think are best practices. Start small. You don't have to do your whole plant at the same time. The purpose of Industry 4.0 solutions, or industry of the future type solutions, is that they're scalable. So you can start with one line, understand the roles and responsibilities that you need to implement to make that successful, but do that on a scale that's manageable. Set clear goals for those initiatives. What are you trying to accomplish? Make sure that's clear to your team, and make sure that it's clear to the company that you're partnering with on this innovation or on this transformation. Pre-built solutions are another key. A lot of times these systems from the past, Industry 3.0 type solutions, you had to build a lot of it. You had to configure a lot of it. You had to really define what you wanted things to look like. That's not necessary anymore. There are pre-built solutions out there that will give you 80% of what you need right out of the box and give you the ability to customize the pieces that might be specific to your business. This creates a much smaller lift for your organization and allows you to get up and running really quickly, really fast time to value with a pre-built solution. And then the last thing is really about employee engagement. So how do you manage this change? So make sure that the partner that you're picking helps you with training and coaching. And that can't stop the day the software is delivered. We've seen customers that try a solution, they bring the solution in, they install it, and they say, great, it's installed, thanks, have a good time. That doesn't work. You have to have people that understand what the data is saying, and you have to start to build the team that will help you manage that change within your organization. Now, when we built Automation Intellect, this is exactly the approach that we took. We knew that we had to implement quickly. A lot of these initiatives lose momentum if they don't get results quickly. And they're very expensive to implement. So the longer it takes for you to start to see value from it. So our solution will implement in a very short period of time with very little impact or lift for your team. We have a pre-built solution. So almost 80 to 90% of what you'll need in your day-to-day operations is going to be already there for you. We picked the graphs, we've picked the colors, we've shown your plant view and given you visibility to those things. You don't have to do a lot of complex development or configuration with your team. Most of this is done for you. And then in the for the other part that's probably the most important, we have an employee engagement and a value realization team that comes alongside your team, and we're the coach. We're going to coach your coaches to coach your team. And we're there for you for the whole life cycle of your implementation. So it's a subscription-based product, and that customer success group is with you and your continuous improvement and your engineering teams throughout the process. We give you the ability to see your plant, to understand your equipment effectiveness, to use this data to make your plant run better, to make your plant be more effective and produce more parts, to reduce downtime. We itemize and understand where downtime is coming from and provide insights back to your team for what they can do to improve the output of your equipment or your lines. And we have the ability to eliminate manual reporting. So all of our data can be either automatically ingested from your equipment, or it can be manually entered into our system and provide a consolidation of information so that you get a single pane of glass to understand what's going on in your plant. So COVID affected us too. COVID really stopped everything for a while. And what we realized was we needed to provide some additional functionality to our customers to allow them to react and interact in this new environment. And so one of the features that we came out with since this pandemic started is a feature called Virtual Manager. And it allows your team to interact in a similar approach to Zoom or something like that, but have that interaction and the results of that interaction stay with the equipment. We call it Virtual Manager, and you can use video, you can use chat, you can use file sharing, screen sharing, all within our application and give you the ability to tie that information and those learnings back to the piece of equipment or the line that it's associated with. And then lastly, we implemented a no-touch implementation. So we've streamlined our implementation process to the point where we can send you an edge device that's pre-configured and ready to talk data to your equipment. And we will do that without having to come to site. So your team, the people that are already on the floor, can manage these implementations on their own. So that's kind of an overview of what's going to happen in this industry and a little bit about how our product can help you get there. If anybody has questions, we'd love to take some questions. And outside of this, if anybody has any need for support to work through their digital innovation, whether you buy our product or not, or whether you work with Burgundy or not, we're here to help you. So please reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brad. We do have a few questions. The first one is basically, you say that it's quick implementation, but how quick is it really?
Great question. So the way that we have designed our system allows us to do all of the tag builds and the connectivity to the equipment without interaction from your team. We can typically do that in a very, very short period of time. We've implemented projects in days where it might be 20 pieces of equipment, and we'll have 20 pieces of equipment connected and providing data in just 2 days. So the implementation process is very streamlined with our system, and it provides that instant connectivity to get you to value quickly.
Thank you so much for that. The second question is, what's the experience with your current clients and their return on investment for the product or for such initiatives?
Right. So typically there is an initial impact that's pretty substantial. Within 60 days, we're seeing, in the 10 to 15% increase in productivity and output. That is kind of what we call the Hawthorne effect. It's this effect that when you start to see the data and you start to put emphasis on the data, you get some initial results. What comes after that is the learnings and the continuous improvement activities that are generated from the data. And so you're able to really start to see that the data is driving an action that's improving a performance or a downtime issue, and you're getting better output.
I see. No, that's great. Thank you so much for that. Finally, we do have a bit of a curveball, and this is more of a, what's your opinion, Brad, in terms of like giving this new shift and what's the new normal? What specific skills do you think our teams or the next generation of upcoming professionals should be considering and acquiring? And I know it's a little bit of a curveball, but it is interesting, and I would like to get your opinion on it.
Is the question about the types of resources that you're going to need in your facilities?
Or at least it's more of a general question where, giving this new state and this new normal, what do you think could be employees, what skills and future professionals you should be acquiring in order to survive in such an environment?
Yeah, so I think that one of the big things that we see is you need a person to focus and manage the volume of data. Another reason that we talk about starting small. So when you roll out a whole plant, there's so much data, it overwhelms the system. And so I think you need to make sure that you have a team and at least a contact person that's going to lead that effort within your organization, because there will be a lot of questions. There will be a lot of challenges with bringing a system like this online. And you need somebody to kind of drive that accountability and drive that change management into the organization and really own it.
Correct. So Kimberly, I hope that answered your question. Basically, Brad foresees that there's going to be a lot of data science or data management heavy skills that will be needed in the future. The other question I have is, what is the transition process? Do we scrap 3.0 systems to implement 4.0? If yes, that seems like a big risk during the transition.
Yeah, so that's a great question. No, I don't think the answer is scrap the 3.0 systems. I think it's really about picking Industry 4.0 solutions that can connect to those systems. So if you have SAP as your ERP system and you want to get whatever sales data to coordinate with production data or whatever, then pick a system that can tie those things together and give you a better view of how those pieces of data interact. I think that this is a transition for everybody. It's a bunch of steps in a process. And so starting small, again, is one of those key things. Set up one line, understand the challenges that come with that, build a team to understand and use the data, understand how advanced or challenged your continuous improvement team or group is, and how they can manage the flow of information, and walk your way forward. But when you pick solutions, make sure you pick ones that are forward connected so that they're built to be connected to other Industry 4.0 solutions. Industry 4.0 solutions in most cases can connect backwards to databases or things like that from previous generations of software. But not all Industry 3.0 solutions can connect forward into this data sharing type environment in an effective way.
Okay. And this is my question really, how does the AI system or the automation intellect system really work with legacy products in your experience?
Yeah, so most of the time our system is connected directly to the equipment. So our data is coming directly from the floor, firsthand out of the equipment. And then we're providing the context and the visualizations of that so it can be used in continuous improvement or other efforts to improve output or productivity of the equipment. And I think when it comes to connecting into other systems, a lot of times we're pulling data from those systems. So we want to know what we're supposed to be producing right now. What product are we running? We might want to know who the operators are on the line. We might want to know what the quality specifications are for a specific piece of equipment. And we can use all of that data in context with the data we're getting from the equipment to provide the single pane of glass view for what's going on in your facility.
Thank you so much for that. Any other questions? I'm looking at the chat box. Feel free to stop me anytime or raise your hand. I hope that answered your question, Mayorella. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but if you have any additional questions, we're all ears. If not, I would like to thank all of you who came and listened to us in the first of this series. And I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much, Brad, once again.
Thank you, Barbara. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.